Welcome back. One story we're watching today, of course, is a story that's being watched by people all across the world. It happened yesterday south of the border. Yesterday, of course, a jury in New York found Donald Trump guilty on all 34 counts of falsifying business records. That was at the so-called hush money trial. He is now the first former U.S. president ever to be convicted of criminal offenses and is due to face sentencing on July the 11th. Let's talk about this with a senior U.S. strategist. We're joined now by Greg Valliere, chief U.S. policy strategist at AGF Investments. Greg, thanks a lot for joining us. The big question is, does this hinder him, or could it indeed help him in his presidential campaign? Frank Bruni is a columnist at the New York Times. He already is writing that this could be, in his words, an accelerant to Trump in his campaign, as indeed it seems the charges were in the first place. Being charged with a criminal offense didn't hurt Donald Trump. Will being convicted hurt him or help him?
It could actually help him, Paul. Believe it or not, his base is so rabid and enthusiastic for him. They were outraged last night. They contributed so much money to Trump last night that Trump's website crashed. And I think that, Donald Trump plays the role of martyr better than any politician I've ever seen in my life. And he's going to make himself the martyr here, who's being persecuted by, a court that's mostly liberal. So no, I don't think it's going to hurt him much. It might hurt him a little, but this is not a death blow to his campaign.
And now we look ahead to sentencing, of course. We are hearing that prison is unlikely. How important will sentencing be to the way the public perceives this?
Well, if the court is harsh and they, make him see a parole officer every week, that might be viewed as excessive. So I don't think they'll do that. I think it'll be a light hit, certainly not a jail sentence. Actually, I think the bigger story comes later in June. That's June 27th, when we have the first debate between Trump and Biden. I think that will have a bigger influence on the election than this verdict.
Take us forward to the debates. You think a lot is at stake there. How do you think, what's your best forecast at how each man will perform?
Well, I think that Biden may exceed low expectations. He stutters. He's not very articulate, but he's pretty good on the issues. He knows the issues well. Trump, on the other hand, is about to turn 78. He also sometimes can get confused and doesn't describe his positions very clearly. I think if there's an upset, it's that Trump is the one who may not do well. He may look rusty, and Biden may hold his own.
Biden did very well at the most recent State of the Union address, correct? Did that not enhance his standing on his feet?
He showed good energy, and people were surprised. But I'd say since then, the biggest story is a revival of anxiety over inflation. And I think a lot of Americans see inflation as a persistent problem, and they blame Biden for it.
You think Trump is still the slight favorite to win the election, despite the events of yesterday. What is your view? Do you think the markets have a clear preference here? Conventional wisdom says markets prefer a Republican president. Some people believe the markets prefer a divided Washington, so a different party controlling Congress as controls the White House. But the fact is, however, that stock markets did well in the Trump administration and have done very well in the Biden administration as well. How do you tackle that question?
Well, let me tackle it this way, Paul. I think there are two big issues that the markets worry about, regardless of who wins. And those issues are, number one, a clear revival of protectionism with tariffs on China. I thought that was a Trump issue, but Biden has been just as aggressive in talking about tariffs. The second issue the markets are concerned about is that both of these candidates seem to be pretty, laissez-faire when it comes to deficits. They don't really care about deficits. I think they're oblivious to deficits. We're now over $30 trillion in debt. It's about 34 trillion, headed even higher in the next couple of years. And I think whoever wins will not be very aggressive in trying to bring these deficits down.
How important do you think the conflict in Gaza will be to the election campaign? We hear that it may pose more of a threat to Biden's campaign, perhaps, because a significant portion, a material portion of the Democratic base is very, very critical of how Israel has advanced in Gaza and by extension critical of Biden's support for Israel.
Yeah, Biden has not been perceived as doing very well on Gaza. He's antagonized, as you say, a lot of the Democrats' base. So that's not going to help him. Immigration's not going to help him. I'm not sure Ukraine is going to help him. And then, of course, you've got economic anxiety. So you have an incumbent who has real problems. And by the way, I would add, Biden has problems with 3 traditional Democratic constituencies: young people, African Americans, and Hispanics all have supported Biden in recent polls at a far lower level than these groups had supported a Democrat over the last couple of decades.